We went on a big operation called Double Eagle, and that was in January. We ended that in February, and we got back to base July, and we're now in July. And we were supposed to provide security for the air base at July. We just got there. When you've been in country, living in the field for weeks, you got to refurbish, right? Clean your gear, clean your equipment, and get ready to go. But the next day, we had this order to go on Operation Hot Springs. I mean, Operation Utah. Now, we didn't know it was Operation Utah at the time, but they had intercepted some North Vietnamese, found out that there was a regiment in the area, North Vietnamese regiment. And so they immediately put together an assault team to engage this regiment. And this was on March 3rd when they got this information. By March 4th, we were on helicopters making the assault into this area. But they only used a small battalion. A battalion of Marines at that time had 4 rifle companies. They only used 3 of our rifle companies because the other one had to still provide security. And then we had a small battalion of the South Vietnamese airborne. So they landed us there. It was supposed to be, I don't know, we're going up against the regiment. We were in total about 400 South Vietnamese, 600 Marines. And we were going to go up to potentially 3,000 in a regiment of North Vietnamese and Viet Cong as well. So we were outnumbered. I don't know why the decision was to use such a small force to go into that. I guess because we had just finished one operation, we didn't have enough personnel to do that, and they wanted to act quickly. But I mean, this is crazy, putting, essentially 1,000 men against 3,000. So we were outnumbered, and maybe they thought that our air, and our artillery would make up the difference. But we went up against North Vietnamese. They were in uniform. They had, the latest weapons. They had rockets. They had mortars. So they were a modern armed army, and we essentially got our ass kicked there. Even from the landing in helicopters, and I don't know if you've ever landed in a helicopter. We used the old UH-34s, which are from piston engine helicopters from Korea, and they have magnesium shells, skins. So the bullets go right through them. Okay. And so we're making a landing, and, it was a hot landing. So we had bullets coming through the helicopters. We landed, we scurried out to, we didn't know which way to go. I mean, you go right or left to where the enemy were there. And, helicopters need a clearing to land. So we're landing in this clearing with all this jungle around us where the Viet Cong, North Vietnamese are entrenched. So we're landing in a hot landing zone. We're scrambling to set up a perimeter. So it started like that from day one, okay? So we finally got in formation, and the South Vietnamese that were on our left flank got held up, and so we had to pivot to be able to help them out. And we had 2 companies in front. One company, my company, H company, was in reserve at that time. So F company got overrun, and one of their platoons got split off. And my platoon was called up to go and help rescue that platoon. And then the other 2 platoons in H company were in reserve, but they got hit on their right flank, and so they were told to go up to take a hill on the right side. I call it Hill 37. It was a small hill, but it was rocky. It was more like a ridge. And they made it up that hill, but then the North Vietnamese started counterattacking. And, they were wearing camouflage, like they had bushes and tree branches wrapped around them. So one guy later told me that he was in a helicopter observing the battle. He said it looked like a sea of branches coming up that mountain. It was just like a like it poured syrup and it was just, coming up like that. So it was a mass of North Vietnamese. And so H Company, 2nd Platoon got overran. They tried to back up. Finally, we got mortars on them and stopped them for a while, and they consolidated on that hill. But, they were still under attack, and later they had to withdraw back to the battalion area. And that's where essentially we had 20 people killed out of that. 2nd Platoon essentially almost got wiped out. 3rd Platoon was able to rally them and bring them back. I was lucky, this platoon that I was supposed to rescue, we didn't know who was there, we didn't know what we were up against, and I only had 18 men in that platoon. So we get up there, and luckily one of my men saw a bunker with a rifle sticking out, and he crawled up behind and dropped some grenades in, and that sort of spooked everybody. So about 20 North Vietnamese started jumping out of the holes and running up the hill, and we just moved them down. Okay, because they panicked, and I guess they were like us. I mean, they were scared. They didn't know what was happening. They were being bombed. They were being strafed, and luckily that helped me to free up the other platoon and bring them back. So I was lucky. I lost one dead, one killed, one wounded, but I was lucky compared to what happened to the rest of H Company up on Hill 37. So again, luck or whatever. The war can change in a minute, right? The fact that these guys panicked helped us to wipe them out. I mean, it could have been the other way. They could have, stayed entrenched, and we would have to dig them out, and I would have had more casualties trying to dig them out of those holes. So, the gods of war or whatever, it changes very quickly, and you never know what's going to happen. Tomorrow we're going to read the list of names of H Company Marines who were killed during Vietnam, 5 years. We have 87 names. Out of that, 25 came from Utah. So that was the biggest battle we had, the bloodiest battle we had. There were other, we had Hot Springs, I had Indiana, there were others, but none like this, because this was North Vietnamese, first battle with North Vietnamese, and they stood and they fought. They weren't like VC that, would engage first and then disappear. But they stayed and they fought, and they had the weapons to fight with. I've talked to other veterans who had multiple tours in Vietnam, and they'll say that they'll always remember Operation Utah. And that's why I wrote a book about it. And my book really is not about me. It's more of a memoriam for the ones who fought and died there in Vietnam. So I have a lot of personal stories, and I have one chapter, just a gallery of all the people who were killed there, with their little description of their life. And when I was writing the book, some people said, that's boring. Don't put that in it. But that's the whole purpose of the book, is to memorialize the men who fought and died there. So if I don't sell any copies, I've actually given away more copies than I've sold the book. I self-published it, so. It's Operation Utah. The die is cast, and it's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble. It's on most every online site.